Welcome.
How are you doing?
Great to have you here. So let me tell the people a little bit about this place. It's called the Westhafen Tower, and you are here, so to say, the man in the house. Can you tell our viewers a little bit about you?
So my name is Ram Shoham. I'm founder of Accelerator Frankfurt, based here in Westhafen Tower, 16th floor. Beautiful views, very inspiring location,
Yep.
I have to say. And my passion is startups, entrepreneurs.
That's pretty cool. Can you tell our viewers a little bit about you, because they can already tell you're most likely not the typical German guy with a German accent. So how did you come to Frankfurt and decided to name your program like this? Open an accelerator at all? I mean, that's like a big adventure here, right?
Yes. Well, where does the story begin? I've been in Frankfurt just over 3 years now. I do speak German, by the way, with a very poor accent.
I'd love to hear that one day.
One day. I was in Hong Kong before coming to Frankfurt for 10 years, working in the banking industry, the financial sector, and mostly working with innovation. And coming from Israel, where I was originally born, innovation, Israel is the startup nation. There's a lot of innovation, second to Silicon Valley. And friends from the army basically started reaching out to me if I can help them get investments with their startups. I was in Asia at the time, and I had some good connections through the 10 years being there.
Oh yeah, the Chinese call this guanxi.
Guanxi, right? Yes. Mind you that nowadays 40% of the investments in startups, in early stage startups in Israel, come from China, which is huge.
Okay.
Chinese really love the Israeli mentality, and there's also a lot in common, I would say. There's a lot of army collaboration, there's a lot of sharing of research and technology and so forth. So I started doing this on a full-time basis, working with startups, helping them get investment. But it wasn't just getting a pitch deck and forwarding it to somebody I know. It was really looking at the pitch deck, sending it back to the startup, giving them my critical comments, and getting them really ready for investment.
So you were kind of the rehearsal guy.
You could say that, yes.
Okay.
So I would know what investors were looking for, and I could also spot the good teams within the startup. So I would not work with any startup, it's only really with quality teams. And this I would say would be my strength. Having grown up around the world, I grew up in Mexico, in Spain and in Holland, and being so multicultural, I could adapt myself basically to different people, and this is why in China also learning Chinese has helped me very much to integrate with the local Chinese society there.
What's your Chinese name?
Li Shuan.
Ah.
Li Shuan, which means forever enlightened.
I'm called in Chinese Meng Yuan, from manager. Meng, he's a student of Confucius.
Okay.
And Yuan means far away, but it's also a male first name.
Ah, wow. Oh,
Yeah.
fantastic. Okay, but China, but still, that's China, and we're in Frankfurt.
I was just to bother you with one more question. How's your Dutch?
My Dutch is practically non-existing, I would say. I could speak it, but then I moved to China, and Dutch was my weakest language, so learning Mandarin has really weakened my Dutch. And then I came to Germany, and learning Germany has totally erased my Dutch.
Languages are pretty close.
Yes, exactly.
And now tell me about Frankfurt. Why you're here, and of course what you like about this place. As our viewers can see, it's not the weather outside. Not today, but it can be very lovely here.
For sure. Many things. Frankfurt has always been the place I would transfer. Having lived in Asia for 10 years, Frankfurt was the typical airport I would pass by.
For everybody who's not good in geography, it's almost in the center of Europe.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. Very well connected airport and extremely convenient to the city as well.
And you can also get high-speed trains here to everywhere, including Paris, Amsterdam, as well as Vienna, to the Nordics, Berlin, and all of those places.
Exactly. And back in 2012, a lot of Chinese started moving themselves to the West, scouting also for startups and deal flow. So when I was based in Hong Kong and scouting from deal flow from the West and bringing it to Asia, suddenly they were doing it themselves. So there was no real value for me staying.
They replaced you.
In Asia, yes.
Yes.
Yeah, basically yes. So you all the time need to adapt yourself.
As a startup guy, I would say you got disrupted.
I got disrupted.
Okay.
So for sure. Then I went to Israel. I stayed in Israel for about 4 months when I moved from Hong Kong, and I was doing basically Tel Aviv, Hong Kong back and forth because I still had business.
That's tiresome, isn't it?
That's tiresome. But I also saw that in Israel I cannot add much value. Really, the Israeli startups need me outside Israel because Israel there's no market. When you're a startup in Israel, you need to start thinking to internationalize from the first day.
How big is the market in Israel? What's the size of the population?
Population is about 7 million, I would say. Roughly, maybe 8 at the moment, but compared to 100 million German-speaking people.
This includes like Switzerland,
Yes.
Austria, the German-speaking regions of Belgium, and of course the very small countries called Liechtenstein and Luxembourg.
Exactly,
Yeah.
absolutely.
It's for the American viewers, it's like those type of countries that are smaller than Manhattan.
For sure.
Anyway, go ahead.
But those 4 months in Israel, I noticed that talking about fintech, fintech startups in B2B especially, were all heading not to Frankfurt.
Ooh, that breaks my heart.
Yes, so literally there was no startup in fintech heading to Frankfurt. Most of them go to the UK because it's fairly close to Israel, but not closer than Frankfurt, or to New York, perhaps Singapore, where there's some good incentives from the government. And I started more researching what is the reason behind it, and really the number one reason, which totally surprised me. I thought maybe language, maybe the market size, culture, but the number one reason was convenience. They all had a contact in London, for example. Had an extra bed for them, and wow, London's a great fintech market. I have an extra bed. Why not just move and try our luck in the UK? So that already started getting me thinking about Frankfurt, and I made my move to Frankfurt here at the end of 2012, beginning of 2013. Which
Funny that you say that, because that was approximately the time we started Startup Radio.
Okay.
So there was something starting to move here in Frankfurt.
Yes, something starting to move. I made the move to Frankfurt also because it's much cheaper than living in Hong Kong, and it's much cheaper than living in Tel Aviv. Two very expensive cities, Tel Aviv and Hong Kong, and London, we all know, is very, very expensive. So I thought as a freelancer, I'd be best here in Frankfurt. Cheap cost of living, great airport, connects me to Hong Kong where I still needed to go on a regular basis. Plus it helped me be in the center of Europe and make this research about startup hubs. And I conducted an 8-month research on startup hubs. What makes a startup hub good? I went to Amsterdam, Stockholm, Helsinki, Even interviewed accelerators in Estonia and the usual suspects like Berlin and London, Tel Aviv. And it brings down to 5 key factors what makes a startup hub really attractive.
Okay.
One is you need people who want to start startups. And given the situation of the banks, bankers, more and more of them become freelancers, lose their jobs, banks are not hiring as much. If you think about who will start a fintech startup, it's probably an ex-banker.
With a finance background in banking, maybe insurance guys are now into insurtech. There's some compliance people who are now doing regulatory technology, RegTech. Yeah, exactly. I know they have their education on the job. That's the background, right?
Yeah, exactly. So you need these people. Every startup hub has these. More important, you need the talent to support these people. And Darmstadt, which is a city 20 minutes from here by train.
Yeah, 20 minutes.
Has got one of the leading technical universities, I would say, in the region, in all of Germany.
They're technical enough, they're good enough to have the headquarter of the satellite operations for the European Space Agency. Yeah? That's what many people don't know because they don't go out and do big marketing, but they're very smart there. Yeah.
That's basically NASA of Europe, I would say. They're based also here in Darmstadt. So apart from Darmstadt, there's a lot of great universities around Frankfurt. And every startup hub has these good universities, for sure. So I went and met the students in all these universities to really get a feel of the talent that exists here. And there's a lot of enthusiasm of young students to become entrepreneurs. So it's really great to see. The third aspect is government support. In Frankfurt, the government, it's called the Hessisches Ministerium, has started an initiative for building a fintech hub in Frankfurt. So while it is at very early stages, there is this notion from the government to somehow support the startup ecosystem and the community. So it's another sign that Frankfurt is heading in the right direction. Very important aspect is capital, investments, money. And there's a lot of money in Hessen. Hessen is the region where Frankfurt is located.
It's a state, yeah.
It's a state.
Germany has 16 states, and Hessen is one of them. But Frankfurt is not the capital of Hessen.
No.
It's Wiesbaden. It's like you have the state of New York, but New York City is not the capital, right?
Yes.
Exactly. But it's the business heart. Coming back to the capital here in Frankfurt, there are a lot of VCs here. And there's the biggest business angel association in Germany here, headquartered in Frankfurt, which is also worth something.
Absolutely, exactly. And also around Frankfurt, there's the family offices, the Mittelstand.
Yeah.
There's quite a few.
Mittelstand, small and medium enterprises. It's like those companies nobody has ever heard of, but they do something so specific, so good. They do something. Sometimes they are what we call hidden champions.
Exactly. And these hidden champions, the families are high net worth individuals, and they also started their own small funds to investments also in deal flow. And now you need to bring them the deal flow. A good startup hub has a good mix of accelerators. And that's what really lit the light bulb in my head. Every startup hub has 10, 20. In Israel there's 200 accelerators. There's none in Frankfurt. Accelerators. And now there's one. So before I came, I realized there was nothing in Frankfurt.
You have a lot of incubation spaces. Yes. You have a lot of spaces for newly set up companies, but you don't have per se, as you already said, this accelerator program. So there was one part in in the development of the startups missing?
Yes, this was all part of my 8-month research last year. This year we're totally different, and I've seen startup hubs grow from really nothing, and 2 years later they're a major startup hub. One good example is Jerusalem, for example. So it started in 2012 with 12 startups a year, and nowadays it has more than 400 to 500 startups. So you really see how an ecosystem can really grow very fast. What an accelerator helps the ecosystem is an accelerator are short-term programs, ranging from 6 weeks to 6 months. Our particular program is 4 months at the moment, and what's great about these short-term programs is that they start bringing in the deal flow and the startups towards the ecosystem. We work with 6 to 10 startups basically.
How many are right now in your program?
Right now we have 8.
8. Okay.
8. And the next program will start, we'll have again 6 to 10. And as you see, we can roll up to 20 startups a year into the ecosystem. And this is just one accelerator. I hope more come. Because if more come, there's more ecosystem, there's more startups in the ecosystem, and there's a market for investors to actually grow and funds to be set up here.
Especially if you see like not every accelerator matches the purpose of every company, meaning you, for example, have more background in fintech, so you would look and can provide the most value for fintechs, and then there's maybe someone in logistics, then there's someone in e-commerce and stuff like this, because what I'm still missing is to see a lot of logistics startups here in Frankfurt. Like, it's the biggest European continental airport. It's like a very heavily trafficked area around here. We have like the busiest highways here in Germany. We have the busiest train tracks all around here. We have major freight shuffle. We have also shipping on the rivers here.
Absolutely.
So there would be a lot, but I have not seen them yet.
Yeah, exactly. So, like you said, our focus is fintech and cybersecurity, but it's our focus. We're not exclusive in that. So we are open to any web entrepreneurs, and we have one startup that's totally not a cybersecurity and not a fintech. They're food tech, for example. So, but it just shows they're the wild card, but we base them based on the technology and a strong team. So we really are open to these kind of things. Another startup is not really in the logistic side, but they are focusing at the moment towards the airline industries.
Airlines.
So
nice topic.
We have here the big airport, so they can focus on airports, on airlines. We're going to see if it works. If not, they can always pivot to the banks and become a proper fintech. So when we're,
with your help, of course.
So for sure, but this is what we do. We help the startups really condense 2 years of work into 4 months. They're working here very hard overnight with the support of strong mentors, serial entrepreneurs who are helping them get the direction, pitch it right, prepare the decks for the investors, and then connect them to the investors and the business side. So.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
And thank you for being here. Thank you for this interview. And I would just have one wrap-up question. Where would you like to see Frankfurt in 5 years in terms of a startup hub? What would you like to see like in 5 years?
Why is an Israeli person in Frankfurt?
That's usually the beginning of a joke.
It's no, but well, yeah, it could be. At the moment, we do have to do a lot of marketing outside Frankfurt to bring startups in here. And because there's just not enough, and perhaps some are not convinced and they go to Berlin or other. So where I would want to see Frankfurt is that not so much marketing would be needed outside, that we would attract the outsiders by themselves, that they see the potential of what is here. And to get there, we're already working on one side of the coin. The other side is really startups need clients. Not only investors, clients. Without clients, there's no startup. And this is where large German corporations should open up a bit more. Times are changing, things are moving fast, and they need to open up to work with these young companies, young entrepreneurs. It's a different way of working. It is faster, it's riskier, but the rewards can be great. So I would want to see those two sides of the coins. More startups, more companies open to work with startups, and having a great ecosystem here. And I'm sure this will happen. Let's have this interview in less than 2 years. I give it 18 months. Thank you very much.